All right. I think I spoke on fantasy football briefly. I have Charbonnet on my teams, and I'm off to a good start with that. But Lord knows I need waiver wire help. I think everybody's looking for those big waiver wire ads. After week one is typically an important time to hit the waiver wire. Sometimes you can get out on somebody that your entire league missed on in the draft. And sometimes we've seen league winners be added to rosters before week two's game. So let's use the model to maybe try and inform us on where we should be looking in the waiver wire this week. What are your top names you're keeping an eye on, Dave?
Yeah, so real quick, this is going to be a bit of a new thing for us this year. We've always had some DFS projections on dimers, and we've done a little bit of one-off fantasy content as we have the projections and probabilities that you can use to, give yourself some insight. But this is the first time that we've actually had full-on PPR and half PPR fantasy points on the website, and they're not just, you know, uh, combining the stats that you have. It's an actual outputted projection for these formats. So it's pretty cool. We're actually really excited about it. We did a couple things on social media over the weekend looking at some rookies and how we projected them to finish in fantasy this week. Or in week one. So yeah, this should be pretty fun. I'm going to pull up here some guys that are on the radar this week. For those who may be unfamiliar, we'll just discuss these positions, how much they are rostered in leagues, and what the Dimers model projects for them in week two. For a baseline, I'm just going off of the roster percentages in Yahoo leagues in a 12-person league. So QB Daniel Jones, first up, 5% rostered in leagues. Daniel Jones had himself a massive week, finished as a top 5 QB, 2 rushing touchdowns. Dimers model projects him for 15.6 fantasy points, 211.9 passing yards, and 21.4% for an anytime touchdown. Now, that's only QB 31 on the week. So that might not do it for you if you are looking to replace some big time production, which you probably shouldn't be this early in the season. But he's got the rushing floor. He helped get Michael Pittman in the end zone, who's had a tough time of doing that in recent years. Colts look really energized. I would definitely play him over a Cam Ward. If you are facing a Brock Purdy injury, it's probably a good substitute for you there. Might be matchup dependent. As we said, this particular matchup might not be great. He's got only 15.9 or 15.6 point projection from the Dimers model. But if you need a QB, didn't like what you saw from yours in week one, Daniel Jones should probably be on your radar and could maybe even be had for free and not a waiver wire pickup. Wide receiver Quentin Johnston. I don't think anyone saw this coming, especially after Ladd McConkey's breakout rookie year. But Quentin Johnston scored 2 touchdowns, was a top wide receiver of the week. And look, why not 2 wide receivers in LA, right? Justin Herbert's certainly the kind of guy who could support that. Our week 2 projections, 8.7 PPR points, 39.4 receiving yards, and a 23% anytime TD projection. That's about wide receiver 3-4 range. Not quite the week 1 explosion spot he had. I doubt that's going to happen every week with Quentin Johnston, who we've kind of been waiting to see this for a couple years now. But the Chargers drafted him in the first place to be a go-to guy for Justin Herbert, who might now be in the midst of a potential MVP season. You definitely want that upside on your bench, if not in your starting lineup. I'd probably play him over someone like Chris Olave, who did have a decent week 1. He's a wide receiver 3 flex in our projections. Another wide receiver, probably pretty popular this week, Hollywood Brown on the Chiefs, only 25% rostered, which is actually pretty surprising, even though he was going late in drafts. Worthy's hurt. We don't know how long. Dislocated shoulder. No timeline yet. He is not even ruled out for this week, though that would surprise me if he plays. Hollywood Brown immediately took his volume. His biggest play did come on some busted coverage where he was wide open, but he should be the de facto wide receiver 1 in Kansas City with Xavier Worthy out. 11.0 PPR points in week 2 by our projection. 28.7% anytime TD. That's a wide receiver 3. that you should feel pretty good about putting in at the very least in your flex. Wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins. These points, the projections won't do a lot for you. Just 8% rostered, kind of understandable with not knowing how he'd fit in this offense. But he found the end zone, just 2 targets, 2 catches, but he scored. The Ravens looked a juggernaut. He should be worked in, I think, pretty regularly, if not on low volume. So you might be battling that. He might be kind of touchdown or bust. Not someone I'd be jumping to start, but he should probably be rostered a little bit higher. Just a 10.9% probability to score in week 2, though. So if you are, 0-1 or 0-2 with median scoring and you're desperate for a win, I probably wouldn't lock him in. But if you could pick him up for almost nothing, you probably should.
That projection also shows how touchdown dependent he is based on what you just said, right? Projected 3 PPR points, but yeah, obviously you're going to exceed that if he catches the touchdown. So he turned back the clock a little bit with the grab. I will not be surprised to see him be like a huge red zone threat this year, but yeah, maybe one that I'd be a little more skeptical of compared to some of the other names on this list.
Yeah, I mean, come bye weeks, you might be wishing you had him on the roster to fit in if you have nobody. It is Lamar Jackson throwing to him, so he's still got the upside. But yeah, probably wouldn't start him right away. The only running back we'll look at here and the highest rostered player of these, Dylan Sampson from the Browns. Interesting backfield in Cleveland. There were a ton of guys who took a carry or a touch on Sunday. They just did sign Quinshon Judkins, so how this is actually going to shake out, we don't quite know. But Sampson was the workhorse. He took the bulk of the work, just under 60 total. Oops, sorry. It's our projections. He scored. He's, like I said, the highest rostered player on here. 20 touches, 8 receptions. That's PPR gold. He was the lead back. Jerome Ford was non-existent. Quinshon Judkins will surely factor in pretty much right away. But you definitely want Sampson on your roster as this shakes out. He's available in more than 50% of Yahoo leagues, projects for 10.7 PPR points, just under 60 total yards, and a 36.6% TD probability. That's RB2 upside. So if he's available, put in your claim. Don't let someone else snag him. And our only tight end we'll look at, pretty much a dart throw here, but Juwan Johnson really went off in week 1. 11 targets, 8 catches for 76 yards. He was a tight end safety net for a QB with minimum upside. So he's got a good chance to be a sponge for volume from Spencer Rattler. 5.3 points projected this week, 15.5% anytime TD. Not going to juicy up a lot, but he was tight end 4 in week 1. And if you lost George Kittle, or if Bowers is banged up more than it looks like he says he is, then you probably want to go for Juwan Johnson. Again, though, you could probably get him for nothing and may not have to put in a waiver claim. So if you have a really nice spot, I wouldn't burn it on him.
Love it.